We have breaking news. This just in. We have limited edition t-shirts and hoodies available on the website, unofficiallounge.com. Get yours while they last. Everything's for sale. Like and subscribe. Now back to this episode.
The Unofficial Lounge with Ashante, Crayvon, and Monty. We're here to give you the insight into some of the biggest plays you remember, involving the people wearing the stripes. We look at the grit it takes to become an official while exploring the history of officiating with the people who made it. It's more than black and white. On this episode of the Unofficial Lounge, we talk to Judson Howard, the mentor to everyone. Judson talks to us about what it takes to transition to the next level.
The thing about transitioning is that it's more serious. Instead of the coach being a guidance counselor who gets to keep his job even if he's 0 and 11, versus a guy that's a coach and that's his livelihood. 0-11 a couple of seasons, he's not working. His livelihood is cut off, right? And the higher you go, this is people's livelihoods that you are impacting.
On December 19th, 2020, history was made when Judson Howard and former guest Daryl Johnson were among the first all-black officiating crew to work the Stanford-UCLA Pac-12 football game. Congratulations.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Unofficial Lounge. We are joined today by Judson Howard. Judson has been a mentor of many here in Southern California. One of the first people I reached out to in my career coming up, being exposed to college football officiating. I had no idea about it until I sat down with Judson Howard at his first rules meeting when he did the differences between college and high school. That was one of my first introductions to college football in Southern California. But Judson is a man from LA. He went to Manual Arts High School, which we'll talk about. Then he went to Virginia Union University. He worked for IBM for 35 years before retiring. He's a contributor to Referee Magazine and was a former scout for the NFL, along with many, many other moments in his career. He has more than 10 postseason assignments on the field, off the field. He's just an amazing official, amazing person. We're happy to have him on the show to get to know about him even more. Judson, welcome to the Unofficial Line.
You left out a mentor in the South Bay, LA area. Major gatekeeper,
and still doing it. Yeah.
So
how
you doing?
But it's not just South Bay. I mean, if somebody comes up to Southern California, they have to go through a class with Judson at some point in time if you're going to start working JC football in Southern California.
Yeah, if Justin doesn't know your name, he doesn't know your name.
So Judson, before we start talking about officiating, let's just get to know you. So you went to Manual Arts High School. We hear you have a little bit of rivalry with some of our previous guests on the show.
Yeah, two of your previous guests went to Dorsey High School, which was we didn't have a railroad track separating us, but they were on the other side of the town, and we had a natural rivalry. This was the old Southern League. If anybody's ever heard of the Southern League, Fremont, Jeff, Washington, LA, Manual, Dorsey, 6 schools, and we dominated almost everything. Back in the day when I was there, Manual was very good at football, wonderful in track, good basketball. Dorsey had good baseball teams back then, but we had a lot of great athletes. Paul Blair was at Manual when I was there. I mean, a lot of great athletes came out of the Southern League. The stands were packed for track meets, probably more people at the track meets than there for the football team. So we had a natural rivalry with Dorsey, and Daryl and Chuck were both ex-Dons, and I'm a toiler.
So did I hear you correctly and say while you were there, you guys were good in sports?
When I was there, we were dominant in football. We had a legendary coach, Jim Blewett. We took the city championship 2 of the years I was there. Back then, there was no 3A, 4A, 2A. It was just one division. You had to win your division to go to playoffs, period. No wild card or anything like that. So we dominated that. We had one pretty good basketball team in '61, and we went to the finals of the city, and a guy named Gail Goodrich playing for Poly at the time. We lost that game. The track city championship that I was there. Yes, we were very good in sports.
Hold on, did I just hear you say you guys played against Gail Goodrich?
Yes, he played at LA Poly, not Long Beach Poly, LA Poly. The one out in the valley. The one out in the valley. Yep. Played at Cal State LA.
Hall of Famer. Okay.
Yeah, he's called it LA State. That's where they had the finals back then. Yep.
Okay.
Paul, like I said, Paul Blair with me. Played
So
for the Orioles.
Okay. So you graduate from manual arts and then you head to Virginia Union. What made you go to the Virginia Union?
That had to be a culture shock.
I will tell. I can't tell you the unofficial story. I'll tell you offline. But actually,
we're the unofficial lounge.
Well,
nobody's listening, Judson. You can tell us. It's just the four of us. Nobody's listening.
It has nothing to do with having to get out of Dodge, but that's another story. No, actually, my mother is from Richmond, Virginia, and a lot of my relatives. And my mother encouraged me to get a 1 year. We didn't call them HBCU. She wanted me to experience a black college for a year, and then maybe come back to LA and go from there. So I decided, okay. And my mother was very influential, so I went back. I had a lot of relatives there, so I felt very relaxed with that. Very new to the South. The South had just integrated. I got there, so I was like, "Ooh, can I go everywhere? Are the accommodations okay?" But kind of found a home and a fraternity and girlfriend. Really got into the culture. Really enjoyed myself, and then I decided to stay. I decided to stay the full 4 years, and that's the legacy of Virginia Union. Still in touch with a lot of people there. A lot of my frat brothers that are there, and great experience back then. Both my sons with the Morehouse. So yes, we try to keep that HBCU tradition going.
So like Ashanti said, though, that had to be a tremendous culture shock growing up in Southern California and then going to Virginia.
Yeah, just the food, the accent that they talked. I mean, they were a little country.
Yeah, we have a problem with Ashanti all the time too.
Hold on.
We call it mumble mouth.
It was a cultural shock, and but I loved it. All my professors took a keen interest in me. Got small class sizes. They knew my family. You know, I tell kids all the time, go to UCLA, you're going to be in a classroom, 1,000 kids, sitting at the top row. You get a 1 hour appointment with your professor once a year. With Virginia Union, your professor went to your church. Your professor was all over the place. They could communicate with your family and come to your dorm room if you missed the class. So we had a lot of hands-on work there with, and that really was very important, making that transition from that small black college environment to a big corporate environment. Very helpful.
So was being a part of your fraternity, did that help you, with that culture shock that you had in Virginia?
Absolutely. Alpha Phi Alpha, which was, by the way, the third chapter of Alpha was at Virginia Union. Our second chapter was at Howard. Our first chapter was at Cornell. A lot of things are being talked about. Kamala Harris, she's an AKA for our sisters. Having that brotherhood, support. We all studied together. We hung out together. We partied together, and then the networking afterward. To this day, I can't tell you how much the networking with my fraternity brothers right now. I mean, I've got 2 alphas that are D1 officials. We keep in touch. We network. I've got brothers that I went to school with. We're still in touch. So yes, very, 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 very important. As it is with most fraternities, the networking aspect. So yes, being an alpha, a big man on campus, we were very good academically, and a couple captains on the sports teams. So yes, very important aspect of the college life. In any HBCU, one of the major draws is the fraternity life, the Greek life. the bands, the Greek life, the homecomings. You can't beat that at an HBCU. You can't beat it. And fortunately, my son who went to Morehouse Sons had the same experience. He's an Alpha also. He still network. He was on a line of 22 brothers, and they all are still in touch with each other and keep in touch. And great environment.
So did you play any sports?
No, I did not. I never. In high school, I was on a track team. I was a high jumper, but I never did any sports. You know, we had a little intramural type of things. I was a little athletic, but I, was never did any college sports. On the track team at Manual.
So
we had a lot of good athletes at Manual High School. We had to be good to play football and basketball.
okay. So what led you into officiating?
I'll try to keep it short. This was in approximately 77, around that time frame. I'm at home, looking at games on Saturday, and I'm looking at the calls, and I'm saying, I don't know, maybe I could do this. And I had a neighbor, an older gentleman named Waldo Roberts, one of the lead people in the LA unit back in the day, and he was one of my neighbors. Got to talking to him, and I knew he did football and umpired baseball. He just kept talking to him and brought it up, and guess what? Like everybody else, what do you do? Go to a meeting. Everybody goes to a meeting.
I got to get to that meeting.
And bring your checkbook to the meeting, right?
Bring your checkbook. Then they tell you what uniform to get. And you sit there and look at all. I mean, back in the day, this was before all these units. There was no Long Beach unit. There was no South Bay unit. There was no Valley unit. There was the LA unit. And people from basically everything except Orange County came to this one big auditorium. We met at O'Shea Junior High School. That was where we first met. And everybody was there. Everybody was there. And then they started breaking up into units a few years later. So I'm in awe and got to talking. Howard Slavin, if you remember him, he was one of my instructors in the first year class. And back then, we had a lot of 3-man games for JV. Remember B football? Anybody? That was these schools. It was called B football, not J. But anyway, so what you first did, you worked as a line judge on a 3-man crew, and you worked for free. That was it. And then I remember my second year. Also back then, they only had one assigner for the city and one assigner for the CIF. That was it. They had one guy that assigned CIF, and a guy named Dale Williams. Remember Dale Williams? The NFL. He was the assigner for the city. Anyway, my second year, I got 3.
We all too young to remember some of these names, Justin.
and Judson,
some of the listeners maybe.
And Judson, did I hear you say when you started out you had to work for free?
Yeah, did we hear the word free?
Well,
$3.99?
Your first experience, you had 3-man crews. On Thursday, you had 3-man crew working a JV, a line judge, referee, and a quasi back judge / umpire. That was it. So they brought me in as a line judge. So now we had 4 officials, a little bit better coverage, 2 people on the line. And that's how I got my early experience. And everybody did that for free.
So they wasn't even nice enough to split those 3 checks into 4 to give.
Unheard of. I didn't even cross their mind. They didn't want to split up $25, right? Well, anyway, the second year, I got 3 assignments from the CIF guy, and then I kind of filled it in with some replacements. And in my third year, started getting some varsity assignments and start working up. But like everybody else, go to that meeting. You decide you want to do it. Buy the uniform. I had a lot of good mentors within the LA unit. Anybody remembers Mel Patterson and well, I won't mention any names. He's probably names. But anyway, that's how I got started. As did everybody back in then. That's how we got started. And
when you started officiating, were you full on into your IBM career?
Oh, big time. But
You said 10 years after, so he had moved back because I was going to ask you.
My first 4 years with IBM were in New York. I never officiated back east, and then I got a transfer back to LA in 71 timeframe. Then it's about 76, 77 is when I got an interest in doing football. Remember the guy Walter Roberts that I mentioned? He was a referee on a Pop Warner when he brought me onto his crew. So I got a nice full rookie season working pop. We call it Pop Warner back then, football, where you do 5 games on Saturday. And I don't know if everybody ever had to do that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Straight cash.
Straight cash. Those nasty chili with. They used to get some Fritos and put chili and cheese on them. That was our lunch.
Still do.
Right. Pepper
So
bellies, right? Is that what everybody call them? Pepper bellies.
And we had to weigh everybody back then, and it's just all the routines. But that's how I got started. And once I got rolling, I was doing 5 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday. We had a JV game on Monday, game on Thursday, doubleheader on Friday. That was normal.
So your job allowed you to take the time off?
I actually had a lot of flexibility, fortunately, because I was in the field a lot, so I had a lot of flexibility during this throughout my career.
At IBM, you started in New York. That transfer from New York to LA, was that a promotion, or was that just you trying to get out the cold and get back to sunshine?
No, actually, I enjoy some of the cool aspects of we don't have seasons out here, so I kind of really fall and it was beautiful. Spring was great. Winter had some downfalls. Summer was real hot. But what it was, when I was at IBM in New York, I was a computer programmer. That was what I was hired to do. And then they said, we want to get people into the branch offices, but they like the fact that anybody with a technical background could be somebody they might be interested in getting into sales. So I raised my hand. I said, hey, I'm gladly do it. And by the way, send me to the West Coast. So it worked out. I some contacts. I got hired into the IBM office in Glendale, into their marketing branch. And so I became what is called a systems engineer, where I sort of like the technical aspect of marketing and customer support. And I parlayed that into some other things further. But yeah, I switched from programming to the marketing. So that's what got me to LA.
That sounds like some Vulcan mind trick. Hey, I want to start working, but you got to send me back home. You tricked them into that one, huh?
Well, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened.
Writing them punch cards. You had to write code using a punch card.
That's what, I'm surprised you remember that. That's what we had. Right. We had.
I work with old people.
I'm one of them. But you know what? You know what we used to say when we would talk to somebody and somebody would be lying, we'd hold up a punch card and say, "I'm gonna peep your hole card." And that was, you could look at the holes and you could get the anyway. My father, bless his heart, had a friend, went to our church, who had a friend that worked for IBM. And back in those days, people took care of each other. Because I'm not sure I can tell you about the legacy of Central Avenue, about the legacy. And I remember my father talks about when Tom Bradley was a policeman on the street. I mean, people took care of each other. And through contacts, I got an interview in his office. And that's kind of how it worked out, just by knowing the right people. And I can't emphasize enough that we need to continue to do that. We need to continue using our networking resources to help people, not just in football, but in all aspects. So that helped me a lot. Through that contact, they had a need for my skill in the Glendale office. And the guy hired me like that. I went to his office and he hired me on the spot.
Side note, did I hear the name Tom Bradley?
Yeah, Tom Bradley, the former mayor of Los Angeles.
Right.
He used to be a police officer.
And he was on your street?
He was on the east side.
Okay.
Now, do you know what I mean when I say the east side?
Understood. But that's he was mayor for what, 4 terms? I mean,
long time.
He was a long time mayor of LA.
Yeah, well, he used to be a city councilman before that. Well, he just kind of went up the ranks. Little side note, when he was a city councilman, my father worked in politics. He was a deputy city council, so he knew Tom Bradley. And my mother used to make monkey bread. Everybody heard of monkey bread?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, my mother used to make homemade monkey bread. My father would give it to Tom Bradley. In return, he gave us his Rose Bowl cheese.
Oh, wow. That must have been some
That's
good
a good trade.
That's some good bread.
Hey,
man.
that's a good trade.
I've never had monkey bread that good.
It was good. It was good. It was good.
You should have found a way to keep the recipe. You know what I'm saying?
My mother never wrote anything down.
So
Great. But anyway, that was how things work. The politicians, you do a favor and they do you a favor. And that's how we got to the Rose Bowl in his seats back in the day. So, but Bradley started off on the east side as a police officer, patrolman, and worked his way up to city council and then mayor. My father and I my father knew him very well.
So you're in doing these Pop Warner games. You get to high school. What's after high school?
After high school, I raised my hand and said, I'm interested in doing community college. The assigner at the time was a guy named Bill Agopian. Remember him?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, in fact, Larry Jarman took over for him, but Bill Agopian. And I have to give Bill credit. Bill, he basically had for lack of a better word, the city schools, Compton, West LA, Santa Monica, Southwest, East LA. That was his league. I think it was called the Western States or something like that. And he was very good at giving a lot of people their start. Almost ask anybody that's ever done community college, they got their start through Bill Agopian. Interestingly enough, the same year, I magically got some assignments from Jack O'Kane to work what was called D3. I guess it's the, what do they call it now, Monty?
The SCIAC. SCIAC.
I think it was still called that. But
okay.
Jack O'Kane, who was also the supervisor of the PCAA, he also assigned that league. And magically, I got like 3 games. I guess people said, check out this Judson Howard experience. I never met the man. And I got 3 games my very first college year, Division III. After 2 years of working JC, should I keep going into D1 or just?
Sure,
you good.
Sure. You can go ahead.
Okay, so I was very blessed and fortunate. I worked 2 years of junior college or community college and D3, and Jack O'Kane hired me into the PCAA. I probably came in the year that Chuck Stewart and a guy named Mel Chappelle. I remember Mel Chappelle. Mel and Chuck were in the PCAA, and I followed their footsteps. I was hired probably the year after. And the only other black in the league at the time was a guy named Neil Patterson. I was Chad Brown's mentor.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Mel Patterson.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Judson, I heard you say that was 2 years in JC and then up to D1.
And I just say I was very fortunate and blessed.
Hit the button, man. Hit the button, man. Hit the button. Hold up. So hold up. So we heard the stories where you had to write letters. You just said you raised your hand to get introduced.
Well, no, the writing letters was very, very, very big part of it. Remember what Chuck said about there was no camps,
no camps,
correct.
no opportunities for these people to meet you. There was not always an opportunity to do a scrimmage of a team in the league. Actually, the person that hired me was correct. The guy that actually hired me, I'm sorry, before Jack O'Kane was a guy named Jack Roberts, who was in the league, and then Jack O'Kane took over. I was Jack O'Kane's first hire, and he hired me into the league. Now, there were some circumstances that led me to be considered. I'll leave it at that. I don't know if you want to read into that or not.
You was a
minority.
Was good.
Well, let me make a distinction right now. Okay, back in the day, we used to say black. Now we call it diversity. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Oh yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, because we're talking about women, talking about Hispanics, we're talking about Asians. So back in the day, it was black and white.
Sure.
Right. You had
Right.
black officials and white officials. Now, most West Coast conferences had black officials. Now, I can't prove it, but I would venture to guess that they wanted some type of representation. If there was a percentage, I can't say that. If there was an absolute number, I can't say that. But I will say the PC2A was down to 1 black the year I got hired. Okay.
Yeah. And this is 85.
And what year was this?
This was
85.
Now, was I totally ready? Was I the best that was out there? I don't know. I can't read, but I was hired. I got 6 games my first year. I got 8 games the next year. Then we didn't have crews back then. Now, my first paycheck was $600, and we had 6-man crews back then. 6-man crews. When we did a bowl game, we went to 7, but we did a lot of split crews, 3 from one conference, 3 from another. But the PCAA was Fullerton, Long Beach Pacific, UNLV, San Jose, Utah State, those schools. It basically became the WAC when because the Big West dropped the football, and then a lot of those schools went to the Mountain West.
So it was the PCA. PCA turned into the Big West.
They changed their name. It was actually because there was, in basketball, there was a big something on Monday nights. And somebody had a brainchild. Let's change this to the Big West so that we can get some kind of entry to that Monday night slot for basketball. So that's why one of the reasons they changed the name to the Big West. And they stopped playing football in 99 or 2000. The league, every team in the Big West dropped football, or they stopped doing football. So all the officials kind of scattered either to the WAC, PAC, or the Mountain West.
But in the Big West, were you not only the first of black official in the Big West?
No.
Not the first black official.
Chuck Stewart and Nelson Pell preceded me.
But
I was the first black referee.
First black referee in the Big West.
So hold on, had you already been refereeing at that point? Or
yeah, I did. Actually, I did a number of referee community college games.
Got you.
Because I was still doing community college in my years. When I wasn't working Big West games, if I was off, I was working either D3 or I wanted to stay active. I didn't want to. I was never an official. I wanted to sit down on a weekend. I wanted to. So I would work community college games when I wasn't working D1 or D3. Jack McCain used to assign the University of San Diego, even though they were in the Pioneer League. So, Royce Cooley and I would ride down there. Me and Terry Wilson would ride down there. We paid $125 for a D3 game, no expenses, and we did it gladly. But anyway.
Yeah, we're not too far off of that.
Not
too far off of that.
We all did it, and a lot of people who got.
We talking about the money.
It wasn't a big thing because Royce and I would ride down. Terry Wilson and I would ride down. And we had a great time. Rode down. In fact, we used to do Cal Poly Pomona. I mean, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. That used to be an assignment by Jack. Right up there. Cal Poly, yeah. So. Where did we leave off? Yeah, I was the first referee. In fact, we were actually down to 3 crews when the Big West folded. There was only 6 teams in the league, and I was one of the referees. And because of my tenure, the last game we got as a Holiday Bowl, which was Oregon and Texas, and we got the assignment, and I was fortunate enough to get the referee assignment. That's probably the biggest game I'd ever had up to that point. That was the big thrill for me. Be the referee on that game. Yep.
That's a button moment.
Wow.
That's a button moment. So at this point, who are your mentors? Because you're naming names that I'm seeing today that like, okay, these are the old guys in the room.
Well, Mel Patterson, who was already in the league. Let's see, who was? Anybody remember Kyrie Shannon? Played for the Rams in Pac-8. Chuck Stewart. Chuck Stewart helping me.
Chuck Stewart.
There we go.
Absolutely.
We know that name.
We know that name.
Chuck Stewart helped.
So in this Division I, 22 years at the Division I level, after the Big West went to the Mountain West, what were the next steps?
Well, after the Big West folded, a number of teams went to the Mountain West, so they needed some new officials. And Bill Levy was in charge of. You ever heard of Bill Levy?
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bill Levy was the supervisor of Mountain West when I was hired, but the next year Ken Rivera took over. His daughter played volleyball at Cal State LA. I would go to her games. Ken took care of me. He told me I was going to be a field judge, a couple games as back judge, maybe a couple as side judge. Very good to me. Good bowl games. I was probably on a dream crew. Terry Lighton was a referee. Gary McDaniel was a line judge. Gary Crum was the umpire. Craig Battaglia was the back judge.
Wow.
Bob Baines was the head linesman. A guy named Kim Nelson was a side judge. How can you beat that crew?
Absolutely.
So you went from a referee to going back to your to a field judge. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I finished my career in the Mountain West as a field judge.
Okay.
And after this Mountain West career, you then transitioned to replay, correct?
Correct. Now, 2 of my last year on the field were the first 2 years of replay. And it was really in its infancy, not very sophisticated, not a lot of training. Rules aren't what they are today. Very few things were reviewable, not a lot of stoppages. So
we still have Booster Club members as the second chair in the replay booth.
He really wasn't a booster. He was an employee of that school. I won't name the school, but he was an employee of that school.
Okay.
And you know the circumstance. And it wasn't at that school, it was at another game, because at that time, communicators were traveling, and somebody got a hold of the fact that he went and worked for that school. And there was a number of other changes that were made, because we found out there were several people that were communicators that worked for the school.
Wow.
But nobody thought about it. That incident kind of precipitated that. But anyway, so my last 2 years in the Mountain West had replay, so replay got a little feel for it. And then when I retired, Ken invited me to be a replay official. There was some turnover in the replay. What happened was they kind of manned the replay staff with just anybody who retired. And it turns out replay wasn't for everybody. And they didn't really know that back then, that it wasn't automatic that you could do replay. So a lot of people just weren't meant to do that. So some turnover. I was hired. I was actually hired as a number one. I was never a number two in the Mountain West. I was always a number one. And great years, great. Bob Baines out of San Diego. I don't know if anybody knows him. He was my partner. We got on right. Same crew. So that was a really good match, and had some great games, great bowl games. The talent that came to the Mountain West is unbelievable. I don't want to run a list up, but boy, the NFL is fully stocked with a lot of people that came to the Mountain West. So,
right.
A lot of.
Judson, you had this amazing on-field career, and now you transitioned it to replay. But throughout that, you really started to become more active in your local units, as far as training new officials, becoming mentors to new officials. What gave you the drive to get more involved as an instructor that a lot of officials coming up can count on?
Okay, great. Good question. Actually, when I was in the high school unit, there was somebody said, we need to have somebody teach the rookies that can better relate to them. And they said, Judson Howard would be good. So they asked me to be the instructor for the new high school officials. Guess who was in my first class? A guy named Chad Brown sitting next to a guy named Royce Cooley.
Wow.
Two legends.
Wow.
Yeah,
two Southern California legends.
Okay. Well, anyway, so I went from that. And I probably taught the rookie high school class for about 20 years in the LA unit. So I got a lot of people started. A lot of people got started. And then I kind of migrated to when the formal structure for the SCCFOA got started. Remember when Jack Wood was appointed as the structural chairman? He invited me to be the area chairman for the LA South Bay unit. Patrick Turner was in charge of Long Beach, if you remember that.
Yep.
And so that's how I was asked, and I accepted, and I've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, absolutely doing that too today. Absolutely.
Yeah, I got a Zoom call tomorrow.
We'll be on it. We'll be on it.
I saw the email.
We got the email.
Well, by the time this shows, it would have shown. But yes, I might have a special guest. Hint. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to make sure we're there.
So what I kind of decided to do was, you've heard the expression give back and stay active. One of the things I noticed when I came through the D1, nobody really took me off to the side and said, hey, Justin, this is what you really need to know. You need to know this and be on time and dress and don't be late. Nobody did that for me. Kind of had to figure that. I had to navigate that myself. And then I said, you know what? When somebody gets hired, Patrick Turner and I, after a meeting, we were in Carson at a meeting, and he was hired by the WAC. Patrick will verify this. We spent an hour in the parking lot, and I was just telling them the real deal. Do this, do that, be aware of this, don't be late, how to dress, expenses, get you a Marriott card, get you a Delta card, all those things. And it got to the point that I kind of created a package for how to talk to somebody who came in, and I'm still doing it.
Yes, you are.
I just talked. I was just talking to Greg Adams a couple of months ago when he came, and there were some people helping, but I said, "Hey, Greg, have you know about this and that?" And there's a few things he didn't know. There's somebody I'm helping right now that just transitioned to a D1. So yes, I'm still doing that, and it's not, and I don't just do it. I do it for everybody. I don't just do it for select people. I do it for everybody because there's some we used to call them Rivera-isms, things that Ken Rivera was very staunch on, or was very particular about, things he didn't care about. And everybody's. I'm sure somebody could come up with Coleman-isms, or
right.
or those type of things. And it's just what certain supervisors are very, very particular about, things they're relaxed about. Some supervisors are animate about passing your test. Some supervisors are some supervisors want you to get back. Some supervisors don't want you to sit in your butt doing the week. They want you at the unit meeting, right?
And also not just the supervisors, it's the culture of the other members of part of the officiating staff that you also have to be prepared for. You want to know what the supervisors want, but also there's a culture to each conference that you have to be prepared for as well, that not a lot of people aren't expecting.
Look at all the area coordinators in the SCCFOA. They're all D1 officials.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they don't just sit on the sideline. In fact, that's almost forbidden now. There's conferences, and I won't name any names. There've been some conferences. If they weren't working, they were at home looking at their conference games. They weren't out scouting. They weren't out observing. They didn't go to the meetings.
I got a beef now, Justin, because it's like that now in the SCCFOA, because there's several instances I was chilling and I wanted to give back. And it's kind of hard to, because
give back. You can get people to scrimmages. You can share your test. You can share.
I do all that, but I still want to get paid. I ain't eating.
Here's what you do. Send an email to Rich Colin, because they're looking for observers. All right.
You did that once.
Do it again.
Do it again.
I did
you
it
can't say,
no. I did that. No. What I'm saying is I did that, and I was like, okay, I like doing it, but I never knew how I could continue to do it. You see what I'm saying?
You can do it while you stood on the field.
So yeah.
We would love to have you as the observer. You want me to lead the charge on that? Yes? No?
Oh, now he froze. He froze all of a sudden. Now the computer's not working.
Wait, let me check my email.
Exactly. I don't think he's going to be sending his resume in for that. He may send his resume in for other things, but
the record is 5 emails a dean. I don't know if I'm gonna break that tonight.
So doing this mentorship, we catch you at every camp from the SWAC. You were in Reno, Southern California Invitational on Martin Luther King Day for Don Taylor. What makes you keep wanting to give back?
What I like to do, this is a little bit has to do with the Reno. I want to be in a position to be credible when I recommend somebody. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
I can't throw a name out and they say, well, have you seen them work? And I can't say no. I'm giving you that name because they asked me, or I'm giving that name because they bought me dinner once. I can't do that. I have to be able to tell and describe your attributes, your strengths, and even what you need to work on. If I'm totally honest with somebody with a hiring capability, I don't want to just say all the good things. I want to say, well, he needs to work on this and that. Still developing these areas, but he's got a lot of potential. And you've all heard the classic expression, you're on somebody's radar. Have you heard that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, is to get, if I can get somebody on somebody's radar, I got potential. They've got a pathway. Once in a while I've been asked, Judson, who should I hire? I've been asked that question directly. Judson, I have an opening as a certain position. Who is your best recommendation? I've been asked that question point blank. But then in other cases, camp, and I have an LA area guy at the camp, and I go over to somebody and say, pay attention to number 136. And they'll look at number 136. They'll write their name down. And now later at the banquet or the social, I'll bring 126 over and introduce them to the supervisor.
How have you built those relationships with the different supervisors over the years?
Well, the SWAC is the classic. That's Harold Mitchell, who I have a very close relationship to. The Reno camp did anybody ever go to Reno camp?
Yes, sir.
I did.
I went.
You remember all the clinicians that were there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, it was
What unbelievable!
it was a who's who of officiating every year.
Absolutely.
Every year. Now, you at the Reno camp, and I can grab somebody and take him over to Walt Anderson, or I can take him over to Bill Levy, or I can take him over to Paganelli, or I can take him and introduce. Let's see, let's talk. You realize the value of that? And then the next day, they want to check you out. And all those snaps you got at Reno and the networking. Wow. So all of you went to Reno? Everybody?
I didn't. That was before me.
Okay.
Before I had a dream to move up.
Okay.
I still got a shoe bag from Reno. It cost me about $1,000.
Well, that
That's cheap.
But that was an investment, wasn't it?
Absolutely. It's a piece of memorabilia and a reminder myself of what I've put into doing this.
Well, everybody has to do it now. You can't get hired without going to a camp.
Let's talk about that real quick and a little side note, because we like to bring that up. How do you feel about that nowadays, that not being able to get hired anymore without?
It's the reality of life.
Seasons change, huh?
It's the reality of today's environment. There's no such thing as writing letters.
Going to scrimmages,
spring practices,
wait. Getting to a spring track practice can be huge. If you can get to a SC, well, back in the day, I had an opportunity maybe once or twice to get to the spring practice for SC. I've been probably at a couple, and I remember a lot of times that people were being considered. This is before formal development programs. The people that came to the spring events, spring scrimmages, were up and coming officials, so they could see them in a D1 setting. That's probably going on with all the practices that SC has. Usually, and I was at UC last year and SC a couple of times, and there was several invitees. But this is what I mean. There's things that you have to do if you're an up and coming official to get exposed. Now you got to be good too. There's nothing magical about just showing up and things.
They still take your money, regardless.
Everybody will take your money. Everybody. I used to go to Reno, and there would be guys that were 300 pounds, and I said to myself, "What the heck are you doing here?"
Right.
No chance. You got
for the buffet.
Right.
But you know what? They go back to their Midwestern and say, "Hey, Johnny, I got to hang out with Johnny Greer and Ken Rivera and Walt Anderson." And it's like a fantasy camp.
Right. They just enjoy being a part of the group.
And they want to get away from home for a week and go out to the West Coast and go to Reno and gamble and see the showgirls.
Talking about Reno, you have been a mentor to many people, and you still are. But when I went to Reno twice, you had a very special meeting that you had every single year.
You want to talk about that?
Oh yeah. This is the unofficial lounge. We talk about everything.
No,
this VIP.
No,
you had to bring singles or something for this meeting.
No. Here's how it worked. I came up with an idea. I said, all these brothers that are here, they're looking good and interacting and keeping up and field and networking properly. And I said, you know what? We ought to have a brothers only event where we can all get together, relax, have a drink, an adult beverage in a relaxing setting, and just network, just start talking to each other. So and I ran it by Ken Rivera. And guess what he said? By the way, he used to call us the undercover brothers. Anyway, he blessed it. So every Black clinician except one, and I'm not going to tell you his name, every Black clinician, whether it be NFL referee, supervisor, D1 official, and every camper, I individually walked up to all of them and I said, we're going to meet at at 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. And we did. Craven, you said you went to two of them?
I went to two of them.
Okay. And it's called a Sapphire. Ironically, it was called
Sapphire
a Sapphire Room.
Yep, the Sapphire Room.
In Harris. And
Yes.
we got in there, and but we had a ball. We were networking. Right. Al Jury took out a Super Bowl ring and passed it around. And he's talking.
He got it back.
Yeah, he got
it back. Hey, hold up. Oh no, some of y'all brothers, I don't know now.
And he had us cracking up, talking about how he busted this coach and he cussed out this coach and blah blah blah. And the supervisors would stand up and say, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what you need to consider." It was sort of like us talking to each other, things that you wouldn't hear. Is that a good description for things information you wouldn't get in a normal environment?
Yep.
Right?
And it was very necessary for somebody like myself that wasn't exposed to a lot of Black officials, and especially Black officials at that level. It was a very necessary meeting because you start to understand what was required in order to move up. You just weren't attending camps to attend camps. You started to really understand what the camps was all about, and then take it out home with you so you can grow and progress from there.
Yep. Well, that was the purpose. And we had fun. And we formed relationships. People were getting each other's emails and they were keeping in touch with each other. I would get some information, they share it, or there was a scrimmage and you get invited to that. So there was a lot of positive things that came. Harold was the first one there. Gladly the first. David Coleman would come. All the NFL officials would come. And it was a great thing. I'm not sure I've ever seen that anywhere else, but it's something that my idea, and I implemented it, and we did it at every Reno camp. And I can't tell you the number of times somebody has come up to me and said, "Hey, Judson, I remember that Reno. I remember the Sapphire Room." And Eddie Kelly told me that last year. Sean Smith is now on the NFL. People that constantly come up to me and say, "I remember that," and then people that make it. It's really gratifying because a lot of times we have to be aware of the issues of being in D1. Craven, you can relate to this. we go to various parts of the country where I would never take a vacation in Missoula, Montana, or Logan, Utah.
Pocatello, Idaho,
with the one best Western hotel.
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So we got a chance to see not only see these areas, experience them, great food, but we were the only, I can't tell you how many times I was the only one somewhere, and but I had to fit in, right? You have to go where they tell you to go to eat. They never would ask me where I wanted to eat. So anyway, this it's called having to fit in and having to adapt and be flexible. All of us are what I would call dual culture. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's part of it. We have to be dual. Ones that do it very well are the ones that are accepted.
Now, talking about your officiating career, what was the biggest adjustment for you coming off the field and going into the replay booth?
One, adjusting to not being an official when I do replay, because it's totally different. You can't officiate from the booth. That was one of the biggest transitions. One of the nice things is that I could still continue to travel with the crew, so that I didn't miss that. I did miss the field a lot because you're in the middle of the action. The press box is nice, better food, air conditioning. Can't disagree with that. But I miss being on the field, being in the middle of the action. But again, still could travel, still could be part of the crew, because replay is part of the crew. You crew as anybody else. So it wasn't a big deal. I was still traveling. I was still being involved. So it wasn't a huge transition. Other than I miss just being on the field, being involved with the players. I used to enjoy talking to players. I really did. I would always see kids from LA playing on the field, and they would come up to me, "Hey, Rick, remember the Dorsey Fremont thing?" Yeah, I said, "Well, I think yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was great." And they would all come up to me and speak, and I would always go back when I saw that coach. I say, and in fact, I used to take my program. I said, the coach at Crenshaw. I always stop by him, and Coach Washington over Southwest. I stopped by and give him a program and say, "Ask something for your kids." And they were very proud of it. So I enjoyed that aspect of it, seeing the kids that I had seen growing up.
So we talked to Dean about it when we had a chance to interview him. and discussing the process of replay in college football, which we don't want to get into too much detail, but by you being a college football replay official, you're looking at every single play, unlike the NFL where, there's very select plays that they're looking at. How much pressure is it? Because talking with some college football replay officials, it's a little stressful up there keeping up with everything.
Yeah.
So how is it for you?
Yeah, it is very stressful, especially when you press that button. That's when the stress starts. Now we do look at every play, even though there's nothing technically that happened. But I kind of keep up with it by saying I could have ruled on a line to gain on that play. I could have ruled on the pylon if he touched it. I mean, I kind of do these little pretend scenarios because you can. It's like counting on the field. You can go to sleep on counting, right? And then here comes all the players once in a season, and you don't want to miss it, right?
That's right.
So same thing in replay. There's something that happens, and I don't want to miss it because everything's going smoothly, and here comes that pass that might have skipped. Here comes a ball to hit the pylon, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, you kind of have to mentally. So we talk a lot in the replay, but we really talk a lot. We're almost like announcers. Ball snap, quarterback said, ball's tipped, ball's past the line, out of bounds, runners down, fumble, et cetera. So we talk a lot. My whole world in replay is the video screen. You watch the play in real time, and then I go immediately to the screen. The communicator resides on the field so he can tell me what's going on. But my whole world is that screen. If it ain't on the screen, nothing I can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it.
IVE.
Well, that's it. You nailed it. But I've got all the buttons. I've got fast forward. I got freeze frame. I got fan. I can be comfortable with that wheel. I'm a master at the wheel. Now you got to keep in mind we got a command center in my ear too. So we have what we call collaborative replay now, right?
Right.
So that's a new factor. Back in the old days, whatever I said went. That was it. No argument about it. No recourse. But now we have collaboration with the command center.
As a veteran official, as you were, worked Mountain West, worked the Big West, then you went to replay. Now, later in your career, you transitioned to the Pac-12. How excited were you to make that transition to, you didn't have too many more coast-to-coast flights Friday morning?
Thrilled. I was in a Power 5 conference now. It was really exciting. I got all new logo stuff, and new shirts, new lapel pins. Oh, man. Everybody was giving me stuff. Pins. Of course, I have a very good relationship with my supervisor. And by the way, he was in charge of the scouts. That's the scouting program in the NFL. That's really where I met him. He was in charge of the scouting program. But anyway, new schools that I'd never been to before. Oh man, it was like bigger TV productions, more fans in the stands. I mean, it was just a higher tier and caliber of ball than what I was doing FBS and some pretty big bowl games. It's totally different. I mean, it was a new world. I did spend 1 year, my first year as a communicator when I was first hired, and then I transitioned to the #1 chair after my first year as a communicator. Did 2 bowl games my first year. Cravon, you and I were at a bowl game together. Orlando. Remember?
That's right. We were in the bowl game together. That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now, throughout your career, you also was an NFL scout. How was that? I know they've changed their scouting and how they do it now, but how was it scouting for the NFL when you were doing it?
Okay, great. Well, actually, I was hired by Larry Epson. Larry Epson hired me as an NFL scout. He was in the NFL office at the time. Our current deep supervisor, Larry Epson, who actually hired me. And back then, they wanted me to do what they call bird dogging. And what I was asked to do was to go to high school and junior college games and identify potential talent to get into the NFL program to mentor and move up the ranks. Do you remember that, Cravon?
Yep, that's how we first met.
Yeah, I was there to observe you out of what Canyon, College of the Canyon?
College of the Canyons.
High school playoff game, I remember. And my sole function was to identify young, well, not just young, but potential good young talent that we could get into the program and then mentor up and then maybe get into D1, into some higher programs and eventually get into the NFL. Now, that program, and they encouraged me to specialize in diversity, which now means ladies. And I had a number, I guess I had about 2 or 3 ladies. So I was basically signing people up and giving them a website, and they were enrolled in the NFL program. And now we could keep track of them. And if they, we could help them get into camps, help them to, well, whatever. So I took it by myself, not only just to sign you up, but to continue to mentor you. Because some scouts would just sign you up and that was it. And
right.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that I think, Trayvon, you said that you went to Bosco once or something?
For camps?
Yeah, something the Stars and Stripes, something at Bosco.
Oh, no, that would have been with Chuck, the personal touch.
Right.
No, but Trayvon, didn't you say you went to that at St. John Bosco?
St. John's Bosco, that was with Chuck, his last personal touch camp at St. John Bosco.
But you went, right?
Yes.
Okay. Side note, there was a scout there named Royal Cathcart. In fact, that's whose place I took. And he had no clue who was on that field. He lived in the Valley or somewhere, Orange County. He was a scout, but he had no idea who the local officials is because he wasn't involved. So when they started looking for a new scout, they said, we got to get somebody that knows the area, knows the territory, knows the officials involved. So I kind of fit that mold. And Chad Brown encouraged Larry, told Larry about me. Larry didn't know who I was, and I was hired. And that's what I did. I just started identifying young talent and get them into the program, mentor them, and hopefully to move up. Now, they kind of changed their attitude. In my latter years as a scout, my primary duty was to go to the Division I games and to look at D1 officials who were just one step away from the NFL. So I was evaluating D1 games as the NFL scout, sitting in the press box and filing a report. That's what I did in my latter years as a scout. They kind of got away from identifying people. Now, one of the things with the NFL program that they had something called the NFL Academy, and years we did that in Carson. Don Taylor and I worked with it, and we actually had eight weekends. So we had about 30 people there. The most successful program to come out of that program was Karina Tovar. She was one of the people that signed up for that. Now she's in Conference USA, so that was a success story. And we had eight weekends. The scrimmages, worked the Carson scrimmages. We had NFL people come in and talk. I was sponsored by the NFL, so we had all of their support. And it was called the NFL Academy. We only ran it for 2 years, but that was one of the things that we did, and very good successes. Catherine Conti and was an instructor, and Michael Marsh, Victor, John Fallman, were all instructors. I invited Scrambling and Poland to come by, Ed Walker to come by to speak to him. So that was part of my NFL function. But again, the latter times we were just observing people and following the report. They kind of got away from identifying them. And then they also put in place the latter stages of my, and a couple of people that I had got into that program, at least 2 that I know that were actually in the developmental. So, and then they decided to downsize the program. And then I was no longer an NFL scout.
They ended the program completely as far as the bird dogging.
Yes, they did. They said, don't go to high school games, don't go to JC games anymore.
Right.
Just we're gonna tell you to go to a specific game, and this is who we're interested in looking at. And they wanted an evaluation of everybody, not just who they were interested in.
And you're still doing all this scouting as also you still sit like you doing JUCO observation and all that
I'm
too.
an observer.
And high school observer
and
too,
high school,
right?
And high school. Terry Wilson is in charge of our high school observing program on the weeks that I'm not working. I'm at a high school game. I file a report. I talk to the people afterwards. Saturday, I'm at a community college game. I try to pick and choose games where LA area officials are working. So I'm trying to stay local so I can evaluate them. I'm not sure if I've been to any one of your games, but I talk to them before the game. I talk to them after the game. Game review. I file a report.
You take extensive notes, is what I've heard about when Judson comes to your game.
Yeah, I do. I'm very good at that.
So don't think you're gonna be able to take a playoff if you're out there observing them, because that's what I heard.
Okay. I don't miss much.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is that a lot of times what I'll say is something that people have never heard. I mean, I'm talking about experienced people, and they'll say, "Nobody ever told me that." Wow. And then sometimes they're just sitting there looking at me, and do they retain that information? I don't know. And then you got the person pen just hanging on every word I say. And then of course the more seasoned officials who probably know they're not going anywhere, could care less, and don't want to hear from me anyway. Don't think I know what I'm talking about, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't care. I don't mind that. If I can get one person out of that crew that's listening and can take advantage of some of the information, then I've succeeded.
So you're also a writer for Referee Magazine, correct?
Yeah. I enjoyed that. One of the reasons I enjoy it is because every article has to cover high school and college rules. So if I make a statement and it applies equally, I don't have to classify. If there's a difference, I have to make two statements. Play, which is basically a play ruling, we call it. There might be a NFHS high school and an NC2A rule. So it keeps me up with the high school rules. That's one of the benefits of it. Wow, this is serious stuff. Look at all these exceptions. Oh my goodness, look how thick this rule book is.
Absolutely.
I gotta study the rules now.
There's a rule book. What are you talking about? In high school,
I gotta open it.
I gotta open it. You just threw a flag and the referee was like, okay, I'll handle the rest.
Yeah, that's
tell me what happened. Okay, got it.
I figured out. Yeah. You say hold it and you walk away, right?
Yeah, you figure it out.
Didn't have to worry about a number. None of that. Just
the thing about transitioning is that it's more serious. Instead of the coach being the guidance counselor who gets to keep his job even if he's 0-11, versus a guy that's a coach and that's his livelihood. 0-11 a couple of seasons, he's not working. His livelihood is cut off, right? Sure. And the higher you go, this is people's livelihoods that you are impacting. So you got to be serious about it. And we lose a lot of people that raise their hand and say, I want to be a college official, and they get to that first two classes. Oh, I got to do all that, and I got to pay all this money, and I got all these classes. I don't want to do that. I'll go back to my Pop Warner game and make me $500 a weekend.
Two and Q, baby. 2 and Q.
We tell people all the time on this show, you have to take a pay cut to move up to the college ranks because
right.
I've heard that.
You know that Pop Warner pay was better.
We don't talk about that undocumented money. You know what I'm saying?
You're working 5 games on Saturday. I don't know what they pay. But
I only worked one. The time I did Pop, I only got one game.
So you're also the highlight to your career is the ESPN RefCast for the national championship.
Yeah, that surprised me.
How did that?
What happened was ESPN decided to have alternative broadcasts to the national championship game. I think they had 8 in total. Yes. They followed a sideline reporter. They had the coaches in a room talking. They had somebody doing analytics, and they decided let's have an alternate broadcast of college officials. So they came up with John Perry, who was an NFL official, Dave Kataya, former Pac-12 supervisor, and a gentleman and Dave Kataya is the analyst for ESPN, and a guy named Matt I think his name was Matt Richards, who was the SEC commentator, analyst for SEC.
Right.
And they invited him, and they said they would like to have a replay official, and I have no idea how I got. I was told that they asked for me when they went to David and asked permission. This guy told David that they asked me.
That's a good thing being asked about. That is a very good thing.
I was surprised. Especially because there was a Pac-12. If I'm analyzing a Pac-12 crew, maybe I want to criticize my own guys, right? Maybe. So I was a little surprised, but they said yeah, and said and it was taped in Bristol, Connecticut at their headquarters. So that was great to see. I mean, it's like a college campus. It really is impressive. And they flew me back in car and hotel. The Sunday, we did a run through by looking at an NFL game just to get a feel. You have to be aware where the cameras are. I went through makeup, the microphone on me. I mean, I was treated like a celebrity. It was great. And it was really a great, neat experience. Now, I've had some experiences being on television, so I wasn't in awe of cameras and speaking, etc. But I knew that I had to get a word in because these guys were, a little talkative, used to talking. So I had to get a word in. I tried to, if there wasn't a replay, I had to say something about put the ball at an even yard line so they can measure right. Talk about pass position options. I just try to throw a little tidbits in that here and there, and I think it worked. I have no idea what they thought of me or if I was graded, but boy, was that a great experience. And it's like something on your bucket list that wasn't on your bucket list.
Nice.
All right, so Judson, I know one thing that is on your bucket list is doing under review with us. So,
okay. Hold on. Let me write this down. Hold on.
All right, Judson, I'll go through about 3 questions with you.
No, I'm flattered. I'm flattered that you guys asked me. I mean, as I look at the people that you've had on, that you're getting ready, that you already interviewed, I'm flattered to be just as part of that list. So thank you.
Oh, you're an integral part of officiating in Southern California. So of course we have to have you on, Judson.
Well, thank you, man. So, thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right, Judson, here we go.
All right.
Okay, Judson. Where has officiating allowed you to travel that you would have never traveled had it not been for officiating?
Well, basically every city that I went to for the first time. That's one. Bowl games have been in some really neat places. I did the Bahamas Bowl one year.
Oh, yeah, now you're talking.
Yeah. But I'll be honest, I had been there before. But hey, the nicest hotel in the world, 12th floor overlooking the water. Oh man.
And somebody paying you to be there?
Paid me to get there. Oh, goodness.
You're kind of stunting right now, Jess. You
humble. It was a great experience. And in the Bahamas, in December, and the stadium held 15,000. They literally took the stadium up from Central Florida and flopped it and put it down in the Bahamas. The TV truck, they put the TV truck on a boat. The end zones were only 9 yards because they didn't have enough space.
Didn't know that.
Better get that toe tap. Get that toe tap.
The elevators didn't work. No, but great experience. Great experience. Had a ball. I really enjoyed going to Jacksonville, Florida for the Gator Bowl. That was my last game on the field. Got to Nashville twice now. I had never been to Europe for anything outside of the country. But I would just say that I really enjoy going to places that I've never been to before, like Boise, Salt Lake, a good chance to visit in Seattle, Las Cruces, New Mexico, believe it or not, the best steaks I've had in my life in Texas.
Awesome.
Okay. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
You answered it perfectly, sir.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Judson, what career accomplishment has made you the most proud?
A couple things. My relationship with the SWAC and in the ability to parlay the relationship with Harold Mitchell into what ultimately ended up being a hiring opportunity for, say, about 30 officials. And there's one of them on this call right now. 30 officials.
You better say thank you, Ashante.
Right, exactly.
I can't let the man finish. I'm trying to be respectful. You know what I'm saying?
You think Trayvon and Chuck Stewart, all right?
I thank you. I do. What did I tell you? I already said you was one of the gatekeepers. I would not. Okay. If it wasn't for Royce Cooley and not in all this, I wouldn't be where I was at. Because that was one of the first meetings I had to go to.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, the relationship with the SWAC, because it ushered in, how many people came through the SWAC that are now doing D1? I actually wrote it down. I don't want to bore you with that list, but man. And then an equal number are still working in the SWAC right now. I mean, not just black officials, not just black officials.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah, you reach out.
Well, they all went to the camp.
That's what it's about. Got to go to the camp.
They all
Got to
went
go
to
to the camp. But
Yeah,
you did definitely, your relationship with Harold Mitchell opened the gateway to a lot of West Coast officials to be hired into the SWAC to get that exposure at the Division I level.
Well, you know what's so great about that is a lot of people ended up in FBS. You realize how much experience they got by working in the SWAC before they went. It is FCS. It is Division I.
Right.
Plus, you get to go to New Orleans and Jackson State and Grambling and all that. Oh man, do you know what a black college experience is like?
Those games are entertaining, Justin. I will. Those are great.
Okay. What do you think of when you hear the R say the previous play is under review?
Well, you have to realize that I initiated that.
What?
He hit the button. He's the one that started the replay.
He's not going to say that. He's not going to say that until I hit the button.
There you go. There's the answer.
Well, that applies. I mean, that's probably more applicable to the on the field. But I'm the one that initiates. Let me share this. When I was on the field and I heard that and I knew it was my call, and you're helpless. You just stand there, and you probably utter a few. I used to play the Jeopardy theme in my mind. It's like, because you're stressed. Oh, did I mess up? Am I going to get downgraded? Are they going to return it? You have no clue what's going to happen because it's out of your control. So that was stressful when I was on the field. But now that I'm in replay, the replay process is the stressful part of replay. Once you hit that page button, now you go, and fortunately there's a very laid out process. So you're not in the dark, you're not guessing, you know exactly what to do. You know what you're looking for, you know what's reviewable, you know what's competitive, you know if there's a possible error on the field. If it's 52-0 with a minute to go, probably nothing's going to be reviewed. If it's middle of the first quarter and the score is probably going to be reviewed. So through experience, you get an idea of, man, I don't want to deal with that, because we study all the time that if I change it, it's going to be basically the same thing as what they rule. But anyway, yes, stressful part of replay is once we're in the review, I have to make a decision. I'm not through. I've got to communicate that so the referee can properly implement what the decision was. Now I've got to keep track of the information because now I got to put it in my report, and I'm going to be graded. My calls get graded just as much as any on the field's penalty. I'm not sure that answered your question.
That's perfect answer. Thank you, Judson.
All right,
man,
keep going.
That's it. I just appreciate you playing the game with us, and I appreciate you coming on with us. Just fantastic, enlightening interview, and just can't believe that we actually get a chance to talk to you day after day after day, and you're in our corner.
Well, Monty, we have a new relationship now. You know what that is. And we hung out. No, I'm not going to.
Did it take 10 emails or just 15 emails?
Let me take my email. No, I don't have anything.
Not today. I think I sent you an email last week.
Well, you know what? I remember we were at a study session in Dallas this year.
Yes, sir.
And you were nice enough to give me a ride to dinner, and we got a chance. We got a chance, but I do remember meeting you in La Habra.
Yes, sir.
Talking to you when we were out having that hamburger, and I'm fairly sure that after that I put you on my distribution list, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So that's how this works.
Don't take ride from strangers. You don't ever get in a car with Monty, because hey.
Yeah, well Tim Davis gave me a ride back, so it was okay.
Hey, Judson, you can attest I'm a good time, right?
Oh, we had a ball.
There you go.
We had a ball. We had this. We ordered some kind of barbecue. Whatever we ordered fed 6 people.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So
well, Judson, thank you again for joining us on the Unofficial Lounge. It was an incredible opportunity to interview you and get to know you a little bit better, hear your backstory and your history for all that you do for a lot of us. Like I said, you were my first introduction to college football as I started to move up out of the Antelope Valley area and getting introduced to true football officiating. When they told me to go to meetings in LA, it was your meeting, and my career has taken it off from there. So we all here at the Unofficial Lounge appreciate what you have done and what you continue to do. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
On the next episode of the Unofficial Lounge, we speak to Micah Sims, a man that gets to the heights that some dream of, and then makes a decision.
My whole thing with officiating, I wanted to become a NCAA Division I referee, and after becoming a Division I referee, I wanted to leave.
Stay tuned for future episodes. We return to the University of Kentucky and legend Wilbur Hackett.
The barriers that we were trying to break down, the social injustices that were taking place, the fact that blacks could not go into to restaurants, the fact that we had separated schools. I was a part of that because I participated in the demonstration. I participated in the marches. I marched with Martin Luther King. But when I went to UK, as white as it was, as segregated as Kentucky was in some places, I didn't think about integrating. I thought about going to college to play football.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Remember to please like and subscribe, as the Unofficial Lounge is available on all your podcast streaming outlets, including Apple, Google, Spotify, and Anchor. We look forward to you joining us next time in the Unofficial Lounge.